Hello there. Welcome to Blitz Transmissions. This is the Blitzcast number 81. I'm Tommy. Before we get into the content of this week's episode of the Blitzcast, as always, make sure to check out the laundry list of links that can be found in the description below. Of course, I'm going to plug it. You got to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not watching it and you're not yet subscribed, check it out on YouTube. That's where most of my Star Wars content comes out. You could also check out, if you're an ARC Trooper in the Patreon, you would have seen this Blitzcast episode early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, other awesome benefits, the link to the Patreon is in the description below. You can become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do on YouTube, there's my Rancor Battalion channel membership. That link is in the description below. It's also the join button if you're watching on YouTube, right next to the subscribe button. 99 cents a month. You get the reviews early as opposed to all the content. You get to check out exclusive badges, priority replies in my comments section. You get other awesome benefits as well. That link is there, as well as links to the Blitz Transmissions Armory. If you want some Blitz Transmissions swag, like this Blitz Transmissions t-shirt I'm rocking this episode of the Blitzcast here. There's all that kinds of merch in different colorways, all different cool stuff. That is the Printify link in the description below. You can also find links to my Discord, my social media. You can email me at blitztransmissions@gmail.com. Boom. 2 weeks in a row. Hopefully that was a more abbreviated version of the self-plugging. I know Uncle Ange, again, shout out to Uncle Ange. Shorten up the self-plugging at the beginning of the episode. How we doing, everybody? I finally got my grape scraped. Shout out to Commander Bly, giving me the free grape scrapes. We finally got a haircut. It was long overdue. I feel like a new man. I lost like 10 pounds when I got all my hair sheared off my head. This might be a little bit of a quicker Blitzcast episode. I'm guessing like 45 minutes on this one because of a couple reasons. So one, the most pressing reason is in a little over an hour after this is being recorded, Jen and I, my lovely fiance, we are going to be driving out of town to go to her cousin's wedding, which is about 2 hours south of us. So that's, kind of playing a part into why I'm a little bit, strained for time. The good thing, though, is that being strained for time, the only real topic I wanted to talk about with you guys was the Mandalorian and Grogu this week. Because obviously, first Star Wars movie in over 6 years, The Mandalorian and Grogu is out and about in the world right now. And as of today, recording this, today is a Saturday. So I hear it's doing okay in the box office. I know the critics gave it some mild reviews, and the audience gave it much higher reviews. And we'll talk about that and kind of get into what I loved about the movie, because I'm going to be honest, I can't really think of anything that bothered me or that I really disliked about this movie, and I really enjoyed it. Another reason, though, that this probably will end up being a shorter Blitzcast episode is because I've already kind of shared some of my thoughts on the film, and I don't want to reiterate a lot of my thoughts, because you can check out on YouTube, I have a vlog and review where I went out on opening day on Thursday, May 21st. I went out. You can see that review, that vlog has Jen, it's got Bly, it's got Cheesy Napkin, it's got some of my other family members. We all went as a big group to one of the viewings on opening day at my local movie theater, and we saw the movie, had a blast, and then I brought some of my family members back home, and we kind of sat down one-on-one, interview style, kind of recap, review of the movie. So that's pretty much, I don't want to rehash a lot of what I said there. A couple other things I want you guys to check out. Check out the latest episode of the After Action Figure Report. Episode 6 of the After Action Figure Report, your weekly one-stop shop for Star Wars toy and product news, is out right now on YouTube. And you could also check out, that's pretty much all I did this last week, isn't it? That's pretty much all I did. We're getting back in the saddle, though. I'm putting myself in a nice position. We'll start running into the reviews. If you're a channel member or a Patreon member, you would see the review for Scar Squadron Cav and Misty Black Series 2-pack is already out for you guys to watch. That'll be out publicly on probably Tuesday or Wednesday now, because I was going to put it out Monday, but now I'm going to be doing a predictions video because now there's a Hasbro Star Wars fan stream coming out on Tuesday. So you guys know me, I gotta have my predictions video. Anyway, let's get into the Mandalorian and Grogu. So something I want to preface before we get into like the fun lore stuff and all that, I want to just use this as the jumping off point for our conversation here. So I saw that the movie was getting some mid reviews from critics. I think it was at like 56% in like the day or two before the movie released to the public. So I automatically was like, oh, here we go again. I'm not gonna lie, I've never been a huge fan of critic scores and like the self-proclaimed experts on how a movie should be made, because at the end of the day, any form of entertainment is subjective, right? So there can be like the majority of people can say that they were not a fan of a movie, right? And there are movies that like are not made as well as others, but I think that ultimately your enjoyment of the movie definitely shouldn't be affected by what other people have to say about the movie, especially if you haven't seen it yet. I think that's kind of dumb. So I would say, take it with a grain of salt when you see things like that, negative reviews and things, because I think there's a little bit of a disparity on what this movie is. I think that there are a lot of people that were maybe expecting this movie to be something that it was never trying to be, or maybe like, felt a little disappointed because they thought the movie was going to be something that it never was trying to be. So that's kind of where I want to jump off with the conversation. This movie is a fun Star Wars adventure. That's all it is. It's just a fun adventure in the Star Wars universe. It's largely inconsequential to the future of, the Star Wars lore. There was nothing that challenged the existing lore or changed the existing lore. It just was a fun Star Wars action adventure, and it was a fun popcorn flick. It was fun. It was a fun movie to bring your family to, and it was a movie that really every generation could enjoy. I mean, I brought my grandfather, my dad, me, Logan, who's 15, my little nephew, he'll be my nephew in 6 weeks after Jen and I get married. He's 6 years old. Every generation that was there enjoyed the movie. Nobody didn't like the movie. So I think that's what the Mandalorian and Grogu was. I don't think that's what the movie was trying to be. That's what the movie was. It wasn't trying to be the next. I saw people saying like, this needed to be the next Empire Strikes Back. This needed to be the next Andor. No, it didn't. No, honestly, if anything, I'm happy that this was a palate cleanser of sorts. Just a fun movie, a fun, enjoyable experience in the movie theater for Star Wars. Especially considering that our last movies in the theater were the sequel trilogy. Those weren't divisive at all, right? So it was nice to just go in with characters that people generally know and generally like, and walk out just feeling good, feeling warm and fuzzy inside, like you had a good time watching a fun movie with loved ones. So I kind of want to just make this little point before I get into the like lore and everything. And this was a point that I actually brought up in the Blitz Transmissions Discord. There were a bunch of us talking about the movie. We have a Mandalorian and Grogu spoilers channel in there. Oh, by the way, spoilers for the Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm going to be talking all spoilers here. So if you don't want the movie spoiled, I guess scoot your boot. Time to beat feet. Get out of here. Come back after you watch the movie. But I think that there is a like this, and I forget who mentioned it. It might have been Star Wars Marshall on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. Shout out to Star Wars Marshall, by the way, because I really resonated with what he had to say. I'm kind of over this whole like film bro letterboxd like mentality toward every movie and TV show ever. I've been feeling this way for a long time. I never really got it. Like, everybody has their niche. Everybody has their thing that they're very, very invested in and very passionate about. And if it's, movies and entertainment and film, then that's you. You do you, man. But I think for me, that film bro mentality kind of it's like I don't want to say a poison in the water, but it's a total buzzkill. That's a perfect way to put it. It's a total buzzkill to like any conversation around the movie. It's like I'm not concerned with, you know, when I'm watching a movie like The Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm not concerned with like I don't want to talk about the pacing and the dialogue and the this and the tone and the blah 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 and all these technical terms that I really don't even like, I'm not an expert on. I want to just talk about the lore and did I enjoy it? Did I have a good time? I want to escape in the Star Wars universe, and especially for a film that was never claiming to try to be this next cinema master, absolute cinema. Like it was a movie that I think is getting unfairly ridiculed by a community of people that it was never trying to reach. Like it was never trying to reach the film bros anyway, you know? So in that way, I think The Mandalorian and Grogu is getting some unfair backlash, you know, because it's like this wannabe know-it-all. We've talked about this a bunch on the Blitzcast. The self-proclaimed expert, you know, the accolades you have to be an expert on something are that you watched a lot of movies like that, or you know, you said so. You're an expert because you said so. Good for you, I guess, but I don't understand why that has to be it's always those kinds of people. They have to control the conversation, and it always has to be about, well, this is objectively this, but it's like, dude, and honestly, to be quite honest, I actually disagree with the film bros on what they were arguing about this movie not being good for, because I kept seeing the argument that there was no character development, and I rubbed my eyes. Did we not watch the same movie? Did I fall asleep and dream? Like, did we not watch the same film? Because there's an entire sequence in the movie where, and again, spoilers, click off the video. This is your last chance. Click off the video, click off the podcast if you don't want to get the movie spoiled for you. As I drop my coffee cup on the table. When Din Djarin gets poisoned by the dragon snake on Nal Hutta, and he sacrifices himself so that Grogu and the Anzellans can escape, Grogu stays behind and takes care of Din, and there's this whole elongated sequence of all the things that Grogu is doing to take care of Din, and he ends up meeting a guy who, through that guy's kindness, the alien's kindness, gives him an antidote to help Din feel better. That entire sequence is showing how much Grogu's character has developed since we first saw him in Season 1, Episode 1 of The Mandalorian back in 2019. That alone, to me, showed that while film bros hyper-analyze all the technical terms and are looking to check all these boxes off as to whether or not they can say this was objectively a good film or a bad film, you miss the feeling that is Star Wars. You miss the fun, the mystery, the intrigue, the magic that is Star Wars. And that also, I think it was affected a lot by who you go to see the movie with. I saw the movie with family. I saw the movie with people who are older and younger than me. And you get a feeling when you watch other people watch Star Wars. Like for my soon-to-be nephew, this was his first Star Wars movie in theaters ever. And he was glued to the TV. I mean, there was the point where like he had to go to the bathroom about an hour into the film. And my soon-to-be brother-in-law a couple times was like, hey man, like, you know, you got to go to the bathroom. Like he could clearly see he's like, you know, doing the pee-pee dance, and he's like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. And he just kept wanting to watch the movie. He had to be basically like, you know, coerced out of the theater to go use the bathroom and run out for 2 minutes. And it's things like that. You kind of see yourself as a Star Wars fan. Like you see yourself, I guess, if you grew up with Star Wars and you were always obsessed with Star Wars, you can see yourself in that kind of that childlike wonder. Because for me, it was very much like seeing myself in my soon-to-be nephew when I was 7 years old, when I was about his age, and my dad took me to go see the Clone Wars movie in 2008. It was the same vibe. It was the same thing. And that was so special to me. Because was the Clone Wars movie the most amazing? Is the Clone Wars movie an amazing Star Wars movie? Hell no. It is not an amazing Star Wars movie. Not by any means. But it was the movie that made me obsessed with an era of Star Wars, and it's the era of Star Wars that I still attach. My entire channel identity is attached to the Clone Wars. I mean, the character that I cosplay as, or the character that I dress up as for the 501st Legion, and I and all these different, this whole era of Star Wars, it's my favorite, and it's largely because of that movie and because of that experience, seeing it in the theater and your family being there, and that's something that I think that film bros miss. Back to Grogu. That whole sequence was Grogu telling you, it was Grogu telling you that he has grown so much as a character. He was initially this helpless little baby. He hadn't been tapped into the Force. He was cut off from the Force. He was very inexperienced. He couldn't take care of himself. The dude could barely walk. And we see how much he's grown, where he suits himself up in his little Mandalorian armor getup. He leads the Anzellans to Nal Hutta to go save his dad. He takes care of his dad for days, uses the Force to heal him, which in Season 1, using the Force heal was an ability that made him pass out. Or we see later in the film, when Grogu uses the Force to save Rada and lift him up out of the dragon snake pit and bring him over to safety, he doesn't pass out. He's fine after that. He's running after that, like doing all flips and all kinds of things. And that alone shows just how dramatically Grogu has changed and how much he has grown as a character from Season 1, Episode 1 to the time of this movie. And that he not only can take care of himself now, he now can also take care of Din the same way that Din took care of him. That speaks volumes to how much this character has grown. And it was, I never really thought that I would enjoy seeing Grogu in like a whole sequence of a film where we're just focusing on Grogu. And I loved that part of the film. I was invested. There was no dialogue other than, characters that Grogu would talk to. There was no dialogue. It was all just visual storytelling. And I thought it was done very well. And might I say, they have gotten so good with the practical effects on Grogu. He was practical for most of the movie, and it was, wow, it was just insane. The level of, and I've been seeing, like, they've been bringing the puppet, the animatronic, to like different interviews and like talk shows and stuff. It moves so quick and seamlessly and naturally, and it is just very, very impressive. And you kind of see as time goes on too, the more we see Grogu, more of his personality. He's got a personality to him, and he's not just, he's cute and he's Baby Yoda and he's cute. He's a character. I care about him, and now especially that he can fend for himself in a dangerous environment like Nal Hutta, of all places in the galaxy. I'm invested. I'm in. Grogu is a character that I believe can fend for himself, and I'm really excited to see him in future Star Wars content, because there's going to be more with Mando and Grogu. So I'm excited, and might I also say, I think that this movie does a little bit more than people realize, because at the end of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, we kind of have a nice bookend to the first 3 seasons of the show, where Mando and Grogu are on their nice little homestead, on Navarro, and they're open to the idea of helping the New Republic. Well, now we see that they are actively helping the New Republic hunt down and track down Imperial warlords, Imperial Remnant warlords, I should say, to be specific, actually, in that they're used on like a deck of Sabacc cards. And it's through this movie, we've now built a firm connection as to where Mando and Grogu will be now that Thrawn is entering Grand Admiral Thrawn has returned to the Star Wars galaxy, and he's about to be a real threat. Now, I do want to bring up a theory because there's a couple things I want to do. Let me first do this because I said that I was going to start doing this at the beginning of my podcasts, and I didn't do it. I forgot to do it this week, so let's, at least at the beginning of the episode. So something new that I wanted to do, if you guys know me, and I plan not to interject this in the middle of episodes going forward. I need to just remember to do it. I am a Roman Catholic. I'm a Christian, and I have been wanting to just incorporate a Bible verse into my Blitzcast episodes, or a couple verses. These are a couple verses that I read yesterday. I was feeling a little anxious yesterday. I was like trying to sleep and I couldn't sleep. I was just feeling anxious, and I found these verses from the book of Philippians, which would have been the letter that St. Paul wrote to the Philippian people. And this is it starts with chapter 4, verse 6. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. Great handful of verses there for if you're feeling anxious. I took a moment. That was a good reminder to pray when I'm feeling anxious, and I prayed and I felt better and I was able to sleep. It's crazy how things like that work. So I just wanted to share that. Again, I'm not trying to shove my religion down your throat, and like I said, I don't really plan to interject these verses in the middle of an episode. It's gonna be right at the beginning where I kind of want to lead with some form of Bible reading or prayer, but I feel convicted to do it. And yeah, so back to Star Wars. So I have to say a theory. So I was talking to my friends, Skywalker Hendrix and 212 Hunter, obligatory 212 Hunter mention, on the phone last night because they went and saw the movie together. So that was super cool. They got to do that together. And Skywalker Hendrix brought up a really cool theory. I think they talked about it together. Skywalker Hendrix and 212 Hunter, they talked about it together. That the twins. So the main antagonist of the movie, I would say, are the Hutt twins, who we were first introduced to in the Book of Boba Fett. And I thought it was cool that they kind of came back and they weren't just this kind of one-off throwaway villain, minor villain in the Book of Boba Fett series. I loved that they ultimately, obviously, they die. They get eaten by the dragon snake, which that scene was crazy. The dragon snake eating them the way it did, and then when it submerges back into the water in the snake pit, you could see two big lumps in its body where the two Hutts are, and where ultimately you would assume they get digested. Skywalker Hendrix and 212 Hunter brought up a theory to me last night that I had never thought of. And it was that, well, hey, so Boba Fett is already in charge of Jabba the Hutt's empire that was taken over, the piece of the criminal empire that was taken over by Bib Fortuna. And so Boba Fett already has kind of that in with the Hutt clans, that power vacuum, I guess. And now that the Hutt's palace has been destroyed of all the Hutt clans on Nal Hutta, there's going to be, again, another power vacuum there. So could Boba Fett step in and kind of take over where the Hutts left off? And this could also serve to make for more of a connection. This was kind of, so now I'm kind of spiraling into my own theory now. This could make a connection as to why specifically Embo was chosen in this movie, which, by the way, absolute aura farmer, Embo. I loved Embo. Every minute of every scene that dude was in, I was so here for it. I loved his, I thought he was perfect. His costume visually looks just about identical to what we saw in the Clone Wars. I just noticed that the color palette of the entire costume was a bit more muted in comparison to what we saw in the Clone Wars. Completely fine by me. He was amazing, though. I loved every fight scene he was in. Again, he moved and behaved and acted just like he did in the Clone Wars. It was very consistent. He didn't talk much, but when he did, it was the exact sound of his voice that I remember as a kid watching him in the Clone Wars. I owned like 3 Embo action figures as a kid, and he was easily like one of my favorite bounty hunters, and he just amazing character, super cool. I really hope that this Hasbro Star Wars fan stream, they reveal action figures for the Black Series and the Vintage Collection for him, because Hot Toys has already revealed their Embo from the movie, and I will absolutely be picking that up as well. Embo, so the whole point of, I'm getting into spiraling here. Trying to keep track of my own thoughts. My brain is moving faster than my mouth. I love that Embo is a bounty hunter that's contracted by the Hutt clans. That's something that's been going on since the Clone Wars. We see in multiple, story arcs and stuff, he works for the Hutts. And so I wonder, because Embo was also part of Boba Fett's bounty hunter gang called Crate's Claw in the Clone Wars show. I wonder, is this building a connection so that, Boba Fett will make a return, obviously to help out the good guys with Grand Admiral Thrawn's return to the galaxy, and will Boba Fett have a team of bounty hunters with him, like Embo? And I would also hope that we would also get to see characters like Bosk, IG-88, Forlom, Zuckuss, Dengar. Maybe he's Rothgar Dang at this point already. Shout out Big Fury for Rothgar Dang. I would love to see that. And that's something that I really felt was missing from the Book of Boba Fett, was when Boba Fett was like, oh, we need some muscle, we need to hire some people. You would think the dude would have connections or have like some phone numbers saved, or the Hutts, like Bib Fortuna and the Palace, would have some phone numbers saved for some of these bounty hunters. And instead we ended up with the mods and Black Chrysanthemum, which Black Chrysanthemum's sick, and the mods are the mods. That's all I'll say on that. I would love to see this be something in the future where Boba Fett kind of leads like a posse or a gang of bounty hunters, that are all, now that he's the daimyo, he can contract out these bounty hunters for him. And I would love to see characters like that he's worked with before. Maybe C-21 Highsinger could make an appearance, that would be sick. I don't know, maybe Ventress even make an appearance. That old lady Ventress, that'd be nuts. But yeah, I feel like a lot of times, because there's another thing about the film bros. The film bros hate Dave Filoni. And if you guys know me, I am the opposite. I am a Dave Filoni lover and defender. Dave Filoni has made the most amazing, he has had a hand in making my favorite aspects of Star Wars. And so obviously I'm much more partial to the guy than others. But a lot of people say that Dave Filoni likes to just bring back a character just for the hell of it. And I don't think that's ever been true, to be honest. I think that there's always more of a purpose, and I think that Filoni has more of a long-term vision for why he's bringing a character back that's more than just, oh, and it's fan service, and, the people will stand up and point at the screen and go, oh, I know that guy. let them cook. Let the story play out. Just because it's not leading up to anything immediately, just because there's not that immediate payoff, doesn't mean necessarily that it's never going to go anywhere. So let it cook. Let it cook. Give it time. Filoni's a cook, man. He's had some great payoffs, man, Shout out to my beautiful fiance Jennifer as well for the Starbucks coffee. Got me a latte with an extra shot. So we're about to hit the road. I gotta be locked in. Yeah, man. I thought that was a cool theory. Shout out to Hendrix and Hunter. You guys are awesome, and I thought that was a great kind of jumping off point for some theories there. Generally, let's kind of get into some general thoughts with the Mandalorian and Grogu, though. This movie was just a fun adventure. I will say, with how much they pushed in the merch, all the Imperials and all the Remnant stuff, I thought the Imperial Remnants would be playing much more of a bigger role in the film than they actually did. That said, they're still cool trooper designs, and it's nothing new for Star Wars for all these cool badass trooper designs to be plastered everywhere, just for them to show up very minimally in the media that they're from. I mean, I'm a cloner, man. I love clone troopers that literally show up in the background of a shot in an animated show, never to be seen again. I can tell you their name, what unit they're from, what specific haircut they have. So I'll never get mad about just rule of cool trooper designs. It would have been cool if we saw more of the Empire, but I think we're going to see more of the Empire going forward. All right, moving on. I have to say, I really, really loved Rada the Hutt. I know you guys were probably waiting on me to talk about him. Rada the Hutt, I'm going to be honest, completely stole the show for me. I will say it was very jarring, and I talked about this with Cheesy Napkin Logan when I did my vlog and we did like our review after we watched it. It was jarring to hear him speaking basic, and I will say it was jarring to hear several of the Hutts in the movie speaking basic. I will say, from the perspective of watching it with a small child, if your kid can't read fast enough to keep up with the subtitles and you're sitting there leaning in your kid's ear reading them all the subtitles, and there are some pretty prolonged dialogue heavy scenes, whether it's with Rada or the twins. I also have to break that. I've been calling him Rhoda the Hutt my entire life, and then they've only exclusively pronounced his name as Rada in the movie, so I have to break that. I have to break that habit of calling him Rhoda the Hutt. He's Rada the Hutt. But I could see it from the perspective of, again, the focus being this is going to be a family watch. This is something for all generations to enjoy. Having just subtitles and subtitles and subtitles, especially for those dialogue-heavy scenes, is going to really slow it down, And if you want to keep the pace moving of the conversation, you probably just want to have them speak basic, especially for kids. Just having them on, okay, I know what they're saying. And of course, it's Jeremy Allen White who voices Rada, so he's like Giga Chad Hutt, so he has like a Chicago accent, so it was a little funny, just a little jarring too at first to be like, oh, I guess Rada, I guess maybe Hutts have a have a Chicago accent. Though, I think about it though, because it was jarring at first, but I did get over it very quickly. I have to say, I forget about Zero the Hutt and Mama the Hutt in the Clone Wars. I say that it threw me off seeing Hutt speak basic, but Zero the Hutt, you guys know, Mama, it was Count Dooku. I never wanted to hurt that Huttling. But in the, like, Mama the Hutt too. When monarchs fly out of my flea hole. Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. Is that there are Hutts that speak basic. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, I guess I'll kind of, maybe for me then it was more his accent that threw me off or threw me through a loop a little bit more, was the Chicago accent. But I got over it very quickly. Rada was amazing. I love the big Hutt Clan tattoo or brand mark or whatever it is on the back of his head. I never thought I would enjoy or want to see, like, if you showed me on paper, like, yeah, and then we're gonna have 3 Hutts, like, duke it out in the middle of, like, the palace, I would have been like, dude, that sounds so lame. I would never want to watch that. But, dude, I have to say, all the Hutt-on-Hutt violence in this movie was super entertaining. And they did a great job of really just making those fight scenes entertaining, especially like watching Rada in the gladiator ring. Him, like, the way that he uses his body to move more quickly, he can be fast, man. Like, when he lays down and rolls off to the side, that's quick. And I like that he just body slams people using his weight to his advantage. Super cool. I loved all of it. And again, I thought it was executed very well. It was very fun to watch. And I also liked that Rada maybe was influenced by the Jedi. You know, Rada was saved by Jedi when he was very young, and you could tell he's kind of bullied by the twins and other members of the Hutt clans. And I like the idea that there's a Hutt that kind of wants to pave his own way and not be his dad. And I ultimately, I like that he ended up joining up with the Adelphi Rangers and kind of joining up with the New Republic. I thought that was a cool resolution for his character, and it definitely has me hopeful that we'll see him again. I would find it funny to see him wearing any kind of bomber jacket or something. Speaking of the Adelphi Rangers, because this movie is so fun because as time goes on, like, I keep thinking of more and more things that I want to bring up, and it's just like, oh, that was cool, that was fun. I loved that Carson Teva made it into the movie because, forgive me if I mispronounce his name, is it Paul Soon-Young Lee? Paul Soon-Young Lee? He said in interviews that he was not going to be in the film. He tricked everybody. He was in the film. I wasn't, because I saw like Colonel Ward fly in at the end on Nal Hutta, and I saw like they've done this before using some of the directors of Mandalorian episodes as some of the X-Wing pilots, which I think is fun. I was like, oh man, and there's no Carson Teva. Like, you know, like Colonel Ward's Blue Leader, there's no Carson Teva. And then he showed up and he had a couple speaking lines, and I was like, oh dude, that's awesome. That was awesome. I know my boy Max Rebo Experience, Adelphi Rangers on Instagram, was very excited to see Captain Carson Teva in the movie. I was excited as well. That was one of the ones that made me go, oh, I know that guy. But it was also cool to see Trapper Wolf, Dave Filoni's in-universe character. I liked both of the little points he had in the movie, and he had a speaking line, so that was cool. I think that's the first time we've ever heard him. No, because in Mando season 1, he has a speaking line too. In the jailbreak episode, he has a speaking line. I think they're launching some kind of fighter. But I thought it was great. He even had like a Star Wars version of his iconic cowboy hat that he wears, or fedora, or he switches between the two. That was amazing. Again, I'm a Filoni fanboy, so I absolutely love little things like that. And that's what Star Wars is, isn't it? Like little nods, little references, little things. It's always been that way. And that to me feels very organically Star Wars. But yeah, it was super, super cool to see the pilots in there, and the Adelphi Rangers, they were great. I loved that there was like a B-Wing too that was landed at one of the bases. That was really cool to see. And it was just all around fun. I really enjoyed the entire film. I really didn't feel like there was a point where I was like, all right, keep it moving, like, you know, come on, let's get this over with. It was a super long episode of Mando and Grogu, except it felt like it was made for the big screen. It didn't feel like it was made for TV and then, you know, chopped up, shrunken down, and put on the big screen. It felt like a big movie, and that was what I liked about it too. What I really liked, and this was a cool one too, the Amani, the Amanaman species, those guys were sick. They were creepy as hell too, weren't they? I like that they could like roll like droidicas. That was sick. They had these weapons, and Mando, man, I will say, the action in this movie was really, really fun. They did not pull any punches on the action in this movie. So many headshots, so many characters getting disintegrated, lit on fire. Mando was like slicing Amani's throats, like all these aliens were coming at him. He's slicing their throats and stabbing them, and it was really cool. It was really seriously cool. You know what else was cool? Seeing Mando get his Ambin pulse rifle back. I love how they explained that. It was the ship of a gunrunner droid that had already been mentioned and talked about and actually used in the plot earlier in the movie, and then Mando's kind of getting his weapons together on this gunrunner droid's ship, and he finds an Ambin pulse rifle. That makes sense for a gunrunner droid. Super, super cool. I really loved that detail, and it's cool to see him have that weapon back. And he has a Razor Crest back, so we're kind of back to a lot of the iconic gear that he had when we started the series back in Season 1. And look at how much Mando has grown since Season 1. You want to talk about character growth? Mando has changed and evolved and learned so much since 2019, the debut of The Mandalorian. And I absolutely loved, seriously, every minute of it. Every minute of this movie was just pure fun. I mean, the Imperial stuff was great. The mercenary droids were awesome. I caught the one droid had like a commando droid head, and I loved that they had like different voices, and there was even like KX security droid heads and like HK-87 droids and B1s and B2s. I loved the Staps. I loved the super battle droids were sick because they were more of like a berserker where they really would either have, I saw the one had his iconic wrist rockets, but there was the one had like the couple times we see them, they've got like just a melee weapon, and their armor is thick, man. Like Mando has to take several shots from a blaster for Mando to get those guys down, and he really has to fight those ones. So I like that it was also like a bit of a classification to the droids. It reminded me so much of the planet of Iego, the world of 1,000 moons, in Season 1 of the Clone Wars. It was fun, man. Just so many little references to all eras of Star Wars. And even like newer stuff, like Martin Scorsese's Alien, Hugo Durant, which is must be related to Rio Durant, which is the monkey that, and I can't think of the alien species name, so I keep saying monkey. The species, the alien that Jon Favreau voices in Solo, a Star Wars story where he was first introduced. I loved it. It was fun. All the characters were great. And the plot of the movie was easy to follow, but I feel like there are implications to this movie that are setting us up for the next big step in the Mandoverse, right? The Mandoverse that we are living in right now. And overall, man, and one more thing, because I need to wrap it up here. The Anzellans, dude. They were so funny. I loved the Anzellans. They were great. And I've only seen the movie once. I need to see it again. I'm itching to see this movie again. But the Anzellans, man, they were hilarious. The funniest they've ever been, in my opinion. I know there's 4 of them individually. I know 2 of their names are Minch and Keto. I don't know the names of the other 2 off the top of my head, but they were hilarious. I loved them. I loved them both. I loved all of them, and like when the one gets captured or gets bitten by Kibu. It's Keibu is the spelling for Embo's dog in the movie. Different than Marok, which was the name from the Clone Wars. I loved that he's like, it got me, and then when they reunite on Nal Hutta, they're like, I thought you were dead. Like, just so many stupid lines that those little dudes had, and I loved it. I thought they fit in the, good shot, baby. Like, it all landed. All the humor in the movie landed. And it was actually funny. You know, it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like Marvel humor. It was very cleverly done. Very well done. Loved the movie. Really had nothing negative to say. And it was just a fun watch. It was just a fun watch. I think Star Wars needed something like this. Again, I would call it like a palate cleanser. It was a great palate cleanser, getting us into the next steps of, the next era of Star Wars that we're stepping into under the reign of Dave Filoni and Lin-Win Brennan. So hopefully we get to see some cool stuff going forward. And if this is any indicator to me of what's to come, I think we're in for a treat with the future of Star Wars. So I need to wrap up this episode because in like 45 minutes, we're getting ready to leave. So I'm going to get out of here, guys. I will talk to you guys soon. I'm sure I will be talking more about the Mandalorian and Grogu going forward. Thanks for sitting here and chatting with me. I had a blast. As always, make sure to check out all the links in the description below. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off all units, fire at will. 1-2, pick a target. Too many, Captain.